Now, last week I promised you that we would be tracking, okay, where we are going throughout the year so that you see that there is rhyme and reason, that this is a one-year curriculum. And so take a look. I'm going to put in blue on the top there what we covered last week. You guys remember we talked about Psalm 1, that the inspiration of life streams came from that. And then today, number 2, we talked about the 2-point teaching strategy. And tonight, because we still have lots of time and the night is young, we're going to launch our first mini-series tonight, okay? We're going to go for about 3 or 4 weeks. I'm not sure how many weeks yet, depending on your interest and so forth. And this mini-series is on one of the most basic topics of life. If you've been on our Facebook site, you know what it is. It's a topic so basic and so relevant that all experts agree. And by the way, this is why I chose this topic for tonight. All experts agree that this is the key to a healthy relationship. So hey, let's start right there, okay? This is something that we all agree is the key. I'm talking about communication, okay? Communication is the key to building a relationship, and there is just so much that we can talk about here, and we're going to turn it into a little mini-series here. And so yes, communication is the key to building a relationship. And so tonight, that's what we're going to do. We're going to start this little mini-series right now, and we're going to launch it by having a little mini-topic inside this mini-series, and that is on timing. Who would have guessed? Notice it's really not what you think. It's not about talking per se, but it's about considering the timing of your talk, and that's very important. So this first lesson is not about actually talking, but it's about thinking. Remember, thinking skills and then life skills. And so we're going to think before we talk. We're going to be slow to speak and think and then decide to speak or not, all right? So we're going to be talking about that timing right now. For example, take a look at this passage. It says in Proverbs chapter 26, verses 4 and 5, verse 4 says, "Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you will become like him yourself." Okay, so don't answer the fool, okay? Otherwise, you're just going to degenerate and be like him. Problem is, the next verse says, "Answer the fool according to his folly, or he will be wise in his own eyes." And you're like, what? Verse 4 says, don't answer, and verse 5 says, answer. And this is where a lot of critics say, you see, the Bible is just contradictions, you know? Very, very contradictory here. Speak, not speak, what do you do? Well, this is actually a classic example of timing. Understanding the situation and knowing which verse to apply. But let me address this issue of contradiction, because obviously verses 4 and 5 are opposites of one another. And so let me ask you this question. Can you, in a culture, have opposite wise sayings? Can you have that? Where they're completely opposites of one another. Can you do that? Oh yeah. Let me give you an example. I'll show you a picture and you tell me what wise saying this represents in America today. Anyone? Look before you leave. Wow, you guys are pretty good. Okay? So look before you leave. That's a proverb. Okay, now we're talking about opposites, right? So what would be the opposite of that very cautious word of wisdom? Look before you leave. What would be the opposite of that? Can you think of one? Strike while the iron is hot. Isn't that the opposite of that? One says be careful, and the other one says, hey, you got to quickly strike, okay, while it is hot. Are they not opposites of one another, right? Does anybody have a problem with having two opposite proverbs next to one another? No, because it depends on the situation, right? In some situations, you look at it and you say, you know what? I better look before I leap, okay? Or in another situation, we're still talking about the same country here, the same life, but you're saying, all right, I better strike, when the iron is hot. And so two opposite proverbs here, both are welcome in any culture. And so you've got Proverbs 26, verse 4 says, do not answer. Verse 5 says, answer. no problem. You just have to exercise wisdom to know which one to apply in what situation. So where's that phrase again? Wisdom is a thinking skill that comes out as a life skill, okay? In this case, the life skill, there's a goal to this, and that goal is that you're going to bless people with your words. That's why you have to be careful and you have to think twice, because God gave you communication to bless people, not break them, all right? And so with that general goal, let's consider some of these things. You guys ready? Look at this classic verse on blessing and not breaking. Ephesians 4, verse 29 says, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen." You guys know this verse, right? Very famous. You see that phrase italicized there, third from the bottom? According to their needs. Now, in the original Greek, that phrase is literally, watch this, according to the need of the moment. And so what it's saying is not just using edifying words, but that you have to consider the moment, okay? You can't just say whatever you want, but in that moment, you have to say what is necessary because, hey, not every moment is the right moment to speak, right? And so you have to be very careful. And so you have to be sensitive. You have to think about the moment. You can't just say whatever you want, anywhere, anytime. You know people like that? They don't care what the situation is, what the time is, how tired the other person is. They're just going to say whatever, anytime. It's like, hey, let's talk right now, okay? There are people like that right now, okay? Are you like that? There are wives like that. Let's talk right now, okay? This is the time. Or kids, come on down right now. I've got something to say to you. All the kids line up, right? Okay? Got something to say to you. Or, honey, I'm home. Oh, I'm so glad you're home. I have so much to tell you. No, give him some space, all right? Okay? Give him some space so he can wind down, and then you can talk to him. And so timing is very important. Let me say it this way. When communicating, the content must match the context. Does that make sense? Yes? No? I made that up myself. Pretty good, huh? Yeah. Check this one out. I made this one up too. The content can be right, but the context can be wrong. Makes sense, right? You've all been in situations like that where you said the right thing, but boy, was it the wrong time to say it. And so it didn't come across the right way. But you know what? When you say the right thing, and tonight's point is what? At the right time, it blesses people. Consider this verse. A man has joy in an apt answer, and how delightful is a timely word. What does apt mean? It means fitting, appropriate, suitable, right? And so that's the idea that you are going to consider the situation and then you are going to find the word that fits. And in the ancient culture back then, the original Hebrew, that word apt was used of stone cutters. Not everybody can cut stone, but you have to have thinking skills to know just how to take the hammer and chisel and cut it just right. It's the same principle used by expert woodcutters. You have to understand the wood, and you have to kind of, what? Read it and understand it. Interpret it. And then very carefully know just how much force and the proper angles that you have to use in order to get the cut that you want. That's the idea. When you talk to people, if you talk to them in that kind of an appropriate, careful way, and your words fit that situation, how delightful. Have people talk to you in that way and it blesses you? I think we all have examples or or testimonies of people saying the right thing to us at the right time, right? And how much it has blessed us. We also have stories of people who said the right thing but at the wrong time and how much it irritated us, right? Those things happen all the time. For example, consider this. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 14 says, "He who blesses his friend with a loud voice early in the morning, it will be reckoned a curse to him." And so here's a little bit of humor in the Bible. Humorous truth, I'll call it. And so it's the idea that the guy who is speaking, he's a morning person. Okay, are you like that? I mean, I can't relate. I am not like that at all. But are you a morning person? I mean, when you wake up, you're just ready to go. Okay? You had your cup of Folgers. You are ready to go. Okay? And so you have a kind word to say to your friend. Problem is, your friend is not a morning person. Okay? And so he is still half asleep, but the other person, he's like wired. He's ready to go. And so he is like speaking at the top of his lungs. Now, it's a good word, mind you. But the problem is, his sleepy friend is not taking it that way. And so check out the verse. A bit of a humorous truth there. That it would actually be reckoned to him as a curse. Do these things happen? Oh, yeah. They happen all the time. Here's another example of poor timing. Check out the cute little girl. So cute, so warm and toasty, wearing that little onesie there with the gloves. What if you went up to her? I'm just thinking, you wouldn't do this. But what if you went up to her and say, "Can I borrow your jacket?" and just take it off of her right now? Do you think she would appreciate that? Okay? It's cold. There's snow there. Do you see the snow? Proverbs says, like one who takes off a garment on a cold day is he who sings songs to a troubled heart. Why? The idea, okay, let's back up for a minute. If you suddenly take a jacket off of a person, the sudden change in temperature, that's not a good feeling, okay? And so in the same way, if a heart is troubled and somebody comes and gives you the opposite emotion, like singing songs to a troubled heart, that is such a change in emotional temperature, so to speak, that the person is very much bothered by that. You know, this is where guys make this mistake all the time, because guys don't want to enter into like deep emotional situations, especially when their wives are going through a lot of drama, okay? And we'll talk about this later when we talk about male-female differences. That's part of our communication mini-series here. But when women, for example, go through some deep emotional stuff, okay, and she's really having a hard time, you know what a typical guy reaction is? He wants to lighten the mood, right? And so he's trying to crack a joke or say something to try to lighten the situation. So, "Hey, honey, why did the chicken cross the road?" You know, just say something stupid, you know. "It's okay, you lost your job, no big deal. Let's just go out for dinner." So my point is, bad idea. That's not the biblical principle. The biblical principle, and we'll talk more about this throughout the mini-series, is match it. If she's going through that type of situation, you have to match it. That's what the scripture says, Romans 12:15. "Rejoice with those who rejoice, and mourn with those who mourn." They don't want to hear a joke. You're going through a hard time. Do you want to hear a joke? What do you want? You want sympathy, right? You want people to match you where you are at. They don't have to say the most profound thing. People ask me all the time, "What do you say in those situations?" A lot of times you don't say anything. But match them where they are in their emotional and spiritual state. That's very important. Make sense? We're running out of time. And so we need to wrap this up tonight, and we'll have an opportunity to interact on this stuff. But let's review, boys and girls. We've talked about timing there in our first mini-series on communication. And this is a thinking skill initially. You have to assess the situation And you have to understand it. And no matter what life chapter you are in, if you are in high school right now, college, it doesn't matter. This is a skill you are going to need in every life chapter, right? It's something that you're just going to have to continually sharpen. And so we looked at two things tonight. Take a look. We looked at speaking. There are times when you have to speak. And then there are times when you don't speak. Those are the two things we kind of talked about tonight. I'm going to add one more as we close, because there's really three broad areas. There's speak, don't speak, and wait. Meaning, you have to say something, but now you have to schedule it. You have to say something, but now you just got to wait. It's not the right time. So it's not exactly the same thing as not speaking, because not speaking is just canceling it out and saying, oh, I'm not going to say anything about it. But it's not that. This is a little more complicated. You have to speak, but now you got to wait. You might have to wait a really long time. Now let me clarify one thing. Waiting is not procrastinating. Procrastinating is always wrong, because what are you doing? You're avoiding responsibility, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about waiting for the right opportunity. And so can I say it this way? Waiting and creating, or wait and create. Wait and create the right opportunity to speak. And the classic example, and we're going to end with this tonight, is 2 Samuel chapter 11. Anybody know? Does the picture remind you of something? It's the story of King David and Bathsheba. It is a story of infidelity, of murder, cruelty, injustice, how David commits adultery with her and then has her husband killed in battle. You know the story, right? God was angry. Oh, he was burning with holy anger. It was his plan from the beginning to send his prophet Nathan to confront David. But God decided the timing was not right. And so God waits. Not procrastinates, because procrastination is always wrong, right? But God waits. Do you know how long he waits? 9 months, Wayne. Nice. 9 months. 2 Samuel chapter 11, 26 through 27 says, when Uriah's wife heard that her husband was dead, she mourned for him, and after the time of mourning was over, David had brought her to his house, and she became his wife and bore him a son. So from the moment they met to the time that the child was born, give or take a week or two, 9 months, the allotted time given to pregnancy and delivery, God waited 9 months. Things had to play out. You know, sometimes we look at something and it's very, very grave, very serious, very urgent. And check this out, this is a very serious matter. But God still waited 9 months. That's what I'm saying is it's very important to communicate truth, but at the right time. And so after 9 months, God sends the prophet Nathan to David. And then he says it in just the right way, right? He tells a story about a rich man, poor man, and how the rich man took from the poor man, and that just rouses him up. And he stands up, and he has a sense of justice. And now he's set up, right? And then Nathan says, you're the man. You are that man. And so that was the right time. And so wait and create. You got to practice that in the church. You got to practice that in your home. There are a lot of times you see things going on, but you got to wait. There are lessons you want to teach your children, but you got to wait. There are things that you learned in college, but your son's only 10 years old. You got to wait. You're going to have to pack that and put it on the shelf, long-term shelving for 10 years, and then pull it out. And then say, hey, son, there's something I've been meaning to tell you for 10 years. What? Yeah, I think you're ready now to hear it. You know what I'm talking about? You got to do that. And so we're talking about live streams. And we launched this mini topic tonight. And we hope you come back because we're going to continue to spin it out and talk about things such as male-female differences and how to deal with that, because clearly we are from different planets, if you know what I mean. And so we got to figure that whole out. And you'll be able to track exactly where we are going by joining us on Facebook. So become our friends. Just look for live streams, no space, and you'll be able to find out, because I try to put in an entry almost every day. And not only that, but good news is we have a website. Livestreams is online. Livestreamsonline.net.